This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and this evening I'm with Anne Milton, who is now the independent candidate for Guildford in the forthcoming general election to be held on December the 12th. Anne, thank you for coming and being interviewed by the Guildford Dragon.
It's a pleasure.
And what I'd like to do first of all is to just go over your decision to leave the Conservative Party. You left it after 26 years. It must have been a painful decision. What actually went through your mind?
Well, it wasn't a sudden decision. I resigned as a minister back in July because I could see the debates that were coming up about Brexit. I feel very strongly that I didn't want to leave the European Union without a deal. So I felt I would be better arguing that position from the backbenches. When the Conservative whip was withdrawn, I then had to consider what my position. Was this the Conservative Party that I wanted to be a part of?
But you knew what you were doing. You knew that the whip would be withdrawn if you voted the way you did.
Oh, it was made quite clear that the whip would be withdrawn, and it was withdrawn. I think that in politics, but as in all our lives, there comes a point where you have to decide whether you're going to do the right thing, which isn't always the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Did you realise at that point that that was it for you and the Conservative Party?
Not quite. I mean, at the point that the 21, the so-called Rebel Alliance, were all chucked out of the party, I think that week we felt quite shell-shocked, really. It was surprising. There are members of the Cabinet who'd rebelled under Theresa May. Different Prime Ministers take a different attitude. But it felt quite brutal at the time.
But what about locally? Because the association is made up of members who largely support Leave, it appears. Do you think that it would have been feasible for you to continue with the support of the local association?
Well, although I don't know the exact figures, I think you might be surprised. I would say probably 60% want to leave the European Union, but it's not a particularly what I'd call a Brexity Conservative association locally. There's a broad range of views, and both sides are well represented.
So that wasn't the crucial factor, you don't think? The local support?
No. You elect an MP to do the right thing.
Okay. And do you still feel a Conservative, at least with a small c, politically?
With a small c, probably yes. Economically Conservative, but very much on the socially liberal wing of the party.
So what people do call sometimes One Nation Tories?
Yeah, one Nation Tories, it probably means nothing to the outside world, but it's to do with my background, I suppose.
Right, okay. Now you've also commented that the political system isn't working anymore. Political parties aren't working as they used to. Can you explain what you're thinking on that?
Well, I think since 2016, and it's got increasingly worse, there has been a failure of the political parties to find a solution to this. The public are frustrated because they don't like the angry party political fighting. If I look back on Theresa May's deal, I know that there were MPs of all the political parties who would have liked to have supported it, but weren't able to because they were whipped to vote against it. What we have seen is party politics getting in the way of a resolution to this one issue. But there are other issues out there as well.
But you were the Deputy Chief Whip for the Conservative Party. I mean, it's quite a change of heart, isn't it?
Well, contrary to popular belief, whipping, certainly when I was Deputy Chief Whip, was not about forcing people into division lobbies. It actually is about finding consensus. So if you have backbenchers who are unhappy with government policy, you try and persuade government ministers to move the policy a bit, to accommodate those views. What you do as Deputy Chief Whip is facilitate, you negotiate, and with other political parties.
Okay, now let's look at the election that is going to be held on December the 12th. What chance do you think you'll realistically have?
Well, with any election, and I would say the same to you, Martin, voters have got till 10 p.m. on the 12th of December to make up their mind. So I would never prejudge it. I have been overwhelmed with the support I have. I think a lot of people feel quite politically homeless at the moment. They maybe normally vote Liberal Democrat, but they feel that the party has gone too far in its stance on Europe. They maybe normally vote Conservative, but they are not terribly keen on Boris Johnson. Supporters coming in from all wings of all parties.
But it's a big challenge to pull the majority of the 30,000 voters who voted for you last time with you in your new independent stance, isn't it? And that's what you would need to do to win.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Standing as an independent isn't easy. You don't have a big party political machine. You have only willing volunteers and supporters. But I've been slightly heartened because Conservatives have emailed me and said that I will split the Conservative vote, and Liberal Democrats have emailed me and said I will split the Liberal Democrat vote. So if I split both votes off, then I could get through the middle. I think, I tell you what I think is very striking, and this isn't sudden, I think it's been going on for 4 or 5 months, is the number of people who are just very fed up with the main political parties.
Right, but don't you think that for a lot of people Brexit will be the issue, and therefore they're going to polarise to either the Lib Dems or the Conservatives?
Yeah, but people have quite a nuanced view on Brexit. You know, they're not... I mean, public debate and the politicians are going to try and frame this election as being either leaving or remaining. Most people just want the political parties to work together to find a resolution. The political parties have failed to work together to find a resolution. Yes, Brexit is front and centre in this election, but I think a lot of people will also look at other policies. I don't think it's a great time to be having a general election.
Okay, well, let's look at some of those other policies. Now, you were a nurse for 25 years, and there are problems with our local health services. What improvements do you think are needed, and how could you help achieve them as an independent MP?
Well, I think as an independent MP, you probably get more chance to influence policy. We don't know who will be in government, and particularly with my experience as Deputy Chief Whip, I've got very, very good cross-party allegiances and alliances and friendships, actually. So whoever is in power, I've got the relationships there already to make sure that I can always get the best for Guildford. Boris Johnson made it clear to me that he's not terribly bothered if Guildford was lost. He said to me, if Guildford is lost, it's lost. If the Conservatives win a big majority, it will probably be from seats in the north. So we are going to need a champion in the House of Commons who understands how it works, who's got the experience and can fight for Guildford. I think the critical thing for local people is that I will be free of party politics.
Did it shock you when Boris Johnson said that if Guildford is lost, it's lost?
It was terribly shocking. And he said it in front of many other MPs who were in the room at the same time. I was very shocked. And I suppose it was at that moment I thought, you know, this has been my constituency for 14 years. I'm not going to give it up without a fight.
But strategically, for the Conservatives to be so flippant about the success of Guildford as one of their core seats, that is truly surprising, isn't it?
It surprised me, shocked me, upset me.
Okay. So another issue locally, of course, is the local plan. What can an MP do regarding the local plan? It's going through a JR process at the moment, but is there anything a local MP can do about that?
Not a huge amount, but you can do a bit. I think the important role an MP's got to play on planning, and I recently called for a debate and had a debate on some of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a problem that's been sitting out there for 10 years. Local authorities probably need more powers to get house builders to build when planning permission is given. It's quite complex, but without a doubt, there needs to be a change from central government in how we deal with land, how we force builders to build. We've got a site just down the road in Portsmouth Road,
Yes.
near the town centre, been sitting empty for years. It's terrible, really.
Right.
If you think about the need for housing.
Yes, you're talking about the Plaza site, which has been empty
Yes.
for 25 years.
And I mentioned it, as I say, in
Yes,
the
no,
debate.
just that debate, that was interesting because you mentioned the wayside developments and the fact that there were very few opponents to it. Esther McVeigh, the Minister for Housing, she didn't appear to have heard of it, but within 24 hours, a huge amount of money was promised to support it. How did that happen?
Well, I would love to say it was all because of me in that debate, but that wouldn't be fair. I mean, the council, but I have been lobbying.
So was the money in the pipeline? It was simply that the minister. I mean, she can't know all the details of every aspect of planning. So, you think she simply didn't know, but it was already in the pipeline?
I think it was. In fairness, I think it was probably in the pipeline. But I have been lobbying ministers about this since way back, because we need this. There is one person who objects, who I know very well, I think corresponded on on your website. But broadly speaking, this is a chance to improve the lives of people who live in the area, to build some of the homes that we need close to the town centre. I think what's really important about that site is that it has got that broad consensus. And we do need to restrict building on the Greenbelt where we can.
Okay. Now, some people say that your motivation for standing is simply to get the redundancy money that you wouldn't get if you didn't stand. What's your response to that?
It's absolutely not the case. To be absolutely honest, I have no idea what I get for redundancy or what I get if I didn't stand. That has not ever been in my thoughts. I am standing because this constituency matters to me. I think people are fed up with party political fighting. I think that we need an experienced MP in the House of Commons that can get the things that Guildford needs. We've got some big issues out there, and critically that can work cross-party with whoever is in government.
And Milton, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.